Welcome back. One of the great stars of film these days is Geoffrey Rush. He's won the Triple Crown of acting, an Oscar, an Emmy and a Tony Award. Earlier in the year he was starring in the hugely successful film The King's Speech with, of course, Colin Firth. That won 4 Academy Awards, and he was playing King George VI's speech therapist, by name Lionel Logue. He's also, of course, Captain Barbossa in the hugely successful Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. It was just a film, but now there are so many of them, it's become a franchise. The latest instalment is Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, which is out today. And I caught up with Geoffrey earlier. But first, here's a quick clip from the film where Captain Barbossa has left piracy behind and joined the King's Navy.
Mermaid waters, that's be our path.
Steady! Find your courage! I'll be ready to purpose your fear.
Nay, a deserter.
Come about!
Nay. Gentlemen, I shall not ask any more of any man than what that man can deliver, but I do ask this. Are we not king's men? On the king's mission? I did not note any fear in the eyes of the Spanish as they passed us by. Are we not king's men? Aye! Hands aloft and bear away! Stave on ahead to Whitecap Bay!
Geoffrey, great to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
One of the memorable quotes of the many that you've made is about "I die in almost every film I've been in."
That's true.
And it really is true, isn't it?
There's someone alerted me to a website called Cinemorgue. They said, you're on it a lot. And I thought, oh yeah, and I went on and I looked at all the films and I'd never really thought about that. But, you know, Javert from Les Miserables throws himself into the Seine. Trotsky gets a pickaxe in the head. Barbossa gets shot at the end of, you know, the list goes on, and I thought, I never really thought about the characters in that way.
Yeah.
But I thought, people obviously think now whenever I come into a film, well, he'll be dead in Act 5.
Yes. Oh, I'm sympathetic with that. That used to happen to me at school. Like, every year I was cast in some part where I had to wear a beard and got killed at the end of Act 1.
Yeah. They're the parts that you start to look for as you get a little older.
Actually, of course, the thing about Pirates of the Caribbean is you may have died, but you resurrected yourself. Or you were resurrected.
I wasn't aware that that was going to happen. The first film was always called Pirates of the Caribbean, and I think about during the last week of shooting, we started to get Disney letterhead memos that said Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, and we all went, oh, that we smell sequel.
Yes, yes.
You know, and Gore Verbinski phoned me up to say, you know, we're going to make parts 2 and 3 and shoot them simultaneously. And I said, well, I'm dead. I hope you all have a wonderful time, because it is a very enjoyable set to work on. He said, no, we're bringing you back with a little movie magic, but mostly voodoo magic, because you've got a big task ahead of you to gather all these people to help free Teodalma, and the plot gets quite Wagnerian.
Oh, great. And they say the last figure I saw, but you may have seen it later on, but that it's taken 2.68 billion so far or something.
The figure is somewhere around there. I tend to not try and think of the film too much in economic terms. That comes up a lot. But as Johnny Depp said, even on the first film, before we knew what the kind of popularity would be, he said, you know what, it feels like we're working on an independent film that just happens to have, I don't know, $250 million behind its production. And that's the spirit that Gore Verbinski and Jerry Bruckheimer and now Rob Marshall have brought to the project. You know, you do find yourself on location sometimes 30 miles offshore. They'll grapple together 4 oil tankers to form unit base, and we're all taken out with a massive marine department to get 80 pirates out there and all the stunt people and all the crew. Then there's lunch for 800, you know, and I just think, how do they get the eggs out here for the omelette? You can see where the budget goes.
Yes, absolutely. But it could go on forever, really, couldn't it? I mean, as long as you're all prepared to do it.
I think, well, you know, we had the Disneyland premiere last weekend, and there were 25,000 fans had staked out for 48 hours to be near the black carpet. We don't often get to see the film with a real audience. You get to go to the glamour premieres and all that sort of stuff. I do like sneaking into my local cinema down the road and just seeing how it works. But 25,000 fans like that tell you that there's a lot of energy out there, that either they love the characters or they secretly dream of being a pirate or something. And there's, see, I think Jack Sparrow is a bit like a kind of, and I know Johnny is a big Keaton and Chaplin fan. He's found some kind of fundamental clown, like a Monsieur Hulot or, you know, like that. And I think you could put him into almost any adventure and it would take life.
And you started your film career, as everyone says, later than most. I mean, it exploded when you were 46, really, didn't it?
Yeah, mid-40s. I mean, I'd done a bit in my early 30s, 2 bits in two Australian films. But I was, at that stage, so entrenched working for all the theatre companies, major state theatre companies around Australia, and being offered wonderful parts in Beaumarchais' Marriage of Figaro or Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and I was loving King Lear played his fool twice. I loved all that. And when film roles came up, they tended to be very small, and they tended to involve, at that stage of the kind of renaissance of Australian filmmaking, you had to have good pecs and be able to ride a horse. Yeah. And I wasn't good at that.
And that was really the start. But The King's Speech, was that a much bigger hit than you expected?
Oh, yeah.
Did you all know it was going to be $400 million?
No. I mean, I think it's one of those things, it almost became a little bit annoying in the press that people started to say, oh, it's such an Oscar bait film, it's got a disability and it's about the royal family and so forth. Obviously, they were all just ticking the boxes thinking this is a surefire project. But to be honest, when you're at the beginning of that process and you're reading a script that has, to a majority of people who are under 55, it's kind of a slightly forgotten ancient history. I mean, I think a number of people know about the lead up to the Second World War and possibly a bit about the abdication. No one knew anything about Lionel Logue. And the fact that half the film is duologues between 2 middle-aged men sitting in a room chatting in therapy sessions, that doesn't scream box office bonanza.
Not a lot of sex in it either.
No. Just a bit of a cuddle between the Queen Mum-to-be and the Duke of York. Yeah.
What are you doing? Get up! You can't sit there! Get up!
Why not? It's a chair.
No, that is not a chair. That is St. Edward's chair.
People have carved their names on it.
Chair is the seat on which every king and queen...
by a large rock.
That is the stone of Scone. You are trivializing everything. You trivialize...
I don't care how many royal arsenals have sat
Listen to me! Listen to me!
Listen to you? By what right?
By divine right, if you must. I'm your king.
No, you're not. You told me so yourself. You said you didn't want it. Why should I waste my time listening to you?
Because I have a right to be, and I have a voice!
Yes, you do.
What made it a hit then, really? Was it the chemistry between you and Colin Firth?
Those scenes always seemed not problematic, but challenging. I said to Tom Hooper, the director, it's like, this is the first film I've ever worked on, and the first film I can really think of, where dialogue scenes would run for 10 pages without any movement. And I said, is this going to be interesting for an audience? And he said, I think the heart of this film, if audiences connect with it at all, in and around all that dysfunctional stuff going on behind closed doors within that phase of the royal family, and the turmoil going on politically in Europe and Britain in general, he said, I think the counterpoint of getting inside Bertie's mind and finding out about his background is going to be a real revelation to people, and they will be kind of keen to see what has made this man so vulnerable in private life, being forced into such a public position, you know. And we spoke a lot about it in promoting the film. People would say, you know, I liked it for this reason, or I loved it. And it seemed as though most people had a response, not so much about him necessarily being a stammerer, but it's finding what better part of yourself can you put forward that you've not yet done. And I think a lot of people connected, whether it's their own level of shyness or, you know, feeling that, well, I'd love to be more popular at parties or whatever,
Yeah.
that they kind of read the metaphor on a personal level. I mean, my son, who's 15, who's into, you know, action adventure films and Scorsese films and so forth, he moved me deeply because he came along to see the film, and he said, "Dad, I really, really, really liked that film," which is high praise from him. Yeah. And I said, "What was your favourite bit?" And he said, "I loved it at the end when the card came up that said, Bertie and Lionel remain friends for the rest of their lives." And it sort of, as a young adolescent boy, that sort of impacted, and I thought, well, there's something in that.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
That he, as you say, he would say what he really felt and be honest. So that was. You've won the. They say you've won the Triple Crown of acting, with an Academy Award and an Emmy, and a Tony. And they all say now they just want you to get a Grammy.
No, I've heard about this. I hadn't heard about EGOT, which is the acronym for it. I think there's only 3 or 4 people in the history of the world who've achieved that great feat. I think Sir Paul Schofield, I know, is one. He's probably done an extraordinary recording of poetry or something like that. I never aspired towards any of them. They kind of happened on for projects that were very dear to me as an actor. You know, I mean,
there's a wonderful quote you made about growing old and saying it's not supposed to be easy, and you said, quote, having to hold out the newspaper in your 40s and then hair growing out of unusual parts of your body in your 50s.
Yeah. Yes, these things sneak up on you, and yet you should be aware of them, because all through your youth and your young adulthood, you know your grandparents or you know older people, and you just think they've always been like that, and you are perpetually going to be 28, you know, and then suddenly you go, hang on, I'm in my late 50s, and more changes are happening in my body than happened in adolescence.
Which parts of your body? Oh, shall we leave that for a moment?
Oh, no. It's very interesting. I shaved my head. I did a production of Gogol's The Diary of a Madman just late last year in Sydney, and then we took it to the Brooklyn Academy, and just the process of having my hair grow back much more silver than it was when I took it off.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's telling, isn't it? And good luck with Pirates of the Caribbean. You don't even need any luck with that. It's made before it starts.
To be honest, you know, the trilogy completed itself, and there was such a conscious effort to get a standalone new chapter up on its feet, and it's got a touch of screwball comedy, and the action adventure is fantastic, and Rob Marshall's been absolutely the right man. And I saw it at the Disneyland premiere, and it just played.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I hope we can talk on the occasion of the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th.
That's okay.
Thanks a million.
Thank you. Thanks so
Great to
much.
see you. 2 suicide bombs in Pakistan today killed scores of people in the northwestern town of Shab-Qadar. The Pakistani Taliban claiming responsibility, saying it was, quote, the first revenge, unquote, for the death of Osama bin Laden. Meanwhile, relations between Pakistan and the US remain tense in the wake of the US operation to kill Osama bin Laden. Suspicions remain about whether some elements in Pakistan's security forces knew that bin Laden was living in their country. Pakistan's Prime Minister, Yusuf Raza Gilani, says it's absurd to accuse the Pakistani spy agency, the ISI, or the armed forces of incompetence or of collusion with al-qaeda. Imran Khan heads the Movement for Justice Party in Pakistan, and he joins me right now. Imran, you were quoted as saying that the killing of bin Laden was cold-blooded murder. That remark must have caused a great deal of controversy.
David, I don't know, but I mean, as far as I from the point of view of not making bin Laden a martyr, I would have thought that a trial would have been much better, taken him alive. And I say this because look at Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, there was a trial. No one talks about Saddam Hussein anymore because everything comes out in a trial. Bin Laden, if the facts had come out in a trial, in my opinion, he would have been less of a martyr. Right now, there's so much mystery surrounded to the whole thing. And the fact that an unarmed man was shot dead, what does that mean? That means that there's a possibility that bin Laden is going to become a martyr in extremist groups. And I think to demystify the whole thing, a trial would have been much better. I also feel that a civilized country is civilized because it goes through the due process of law. And I felt that if the Nazis could get a trial, who were responsible for over 30 million dead in Nuremberg, I think that this would have, in the long term, would have been much better.
But I suppose Americans would feel that bin Laden was a dangerous and an official enemy, and that he was more dangerous, than even Saddam Hussein.
No, but all I'm saying is that I'm just talking about the facts, which came through that, you know, he was unarmed. There was hardly any armed person in there. There were about 40 commandos there. So if possible, this would have been a better way of doing it. Why do I say that? Because I think when you stand in a court and you're charged with various things, and it's possible that bin Laden would have admitted everything. And then it just makes it, you know, it's what a civilized country does.
What do you feel about the way Pakistan, civilized or not, has come out of this, Imran? First of all, the statements that the intelligence came from Pakistan, and then you added the question, well, in that case, why didn't Pakistan do the raid on Osama bin Laden?
David, I think for Pakistanis, the worst aspect of this whole episode is the way Pakistan government handled the whole affair. Because here's a man, the most wanted man found in Pakistan, not in the mountains, in the middle of the city. And then the Americans come all the way from Afghanistan and take him out. Now, where does that leave Pakistan's intelligence agencies, our security forces, our government? Then there's no official response from Pakistan. The Prime Minister and President do not make a statement. The statement that the Prime Minister makes, first statement he makes hours afterwards, is that we provided the intelligence. So the next question was, if we provided the intelligence, why did we not take him out? One of the 5th largest armies in the world, one of the best secret services. So why did we not take him out? And why did someone else have to come and do the job for us? And then this was again contradicted, and 48 hours later, the statement was changed, saying Pakistan had nothing to do with it. And then it took a week for the Prime Minister to make a statement on this whole episode, a week later. Now, in the meantime, there's a tremendous amount of confusion in Pakistan. Feeling in Pakistan is that we are now more vulnerable than ever before. A country that has lost 34,000 dead. Nothing to do with 9/11. 34,000 Pakistanis have died. We have lost billions of dollars. I mean, the total aid received by Pakistan is $20 billion. According to the president, economy has lost $68 billion. I mean, anything happens anywhere in the world, a backlash of bin Laden's death, we Pakistanis feel the whole world will be looking at us. And on the other side, an extremist backlash. Already the Taliban and the al-qaeda have said that they will seek revenge against Pakistan, America and its agents. We Pakistanis are perceived as the agents. So therefore, it's being sandwiched, one between world pressure of doing more. If anything happens, Pakistan's center of terrorism, after finding bin Laden there. On the other hand, an extremist backlash. People in Pakistan feel more vulnerable than ever before.
Vulnerable to whom, Imran?
Vulnerable to more killings, more bomb blasts, more suicide attacks. Remember in 2010, we had 500 bomb blasts in Pakistan. You know, there were equal amount in 2011. At the same time to 2010, we've got equal amount of bomb blasts there. Then we have drone attacks. You know, on regular basis, these American drones come and kill people in the Pakistan tribal areas, who then seek revenge against Pakistan. So Pakistan, I wonder if it can take this for much longer, because the economy is completely bankrupt, massive unemployment, unprecedented inflation, power breakdowns, the most corrupt and incompetent government in our history, as the way they've handled this whole affair. So the feeling is, can we take this much longer?
What would happen, though, if Pakistan decided it couldn't take all of this much longer? Would Pakistan do something in those circumstances, and if so, what?
Given the present government, there's not much it can do. It's totally failed on all fronts. The government, the democratic government, has subletted the war or handed the war over to the army. I think this is the biggest blunder. A democratic government should deal with this whole, I'm talking about 150,000 Pakistani soldiers fighting in our tribal areas. Now, in my opinion, a democratic government seeks a political solution. And military action is part of a larger political solution. At the moment, there is no political solution. Basically, we get money from the Americans and they tell us what to do.
Looking to the future then, Imran, you said earlier on that Pakistan, under all this pressure, could simply collapse. Do you think Pakistan is more likely to collapse than to prevail?
Well, it's the classic situation. It's the worst of times and possibly the best of times. The optimist in me sees that this is a time for a great change in Pakistan. You know, the way we have been conducting our governance, it's time to change. Doing what we have done, acting as a hired gun for the US, taking money and fighting the US war, we have actually increased extremism in our country. The moment the government has been perceived as America, or as the extremists call us, American agents. The moment we become American agents, we do not have the credibility of fighting this war. Because all we do is we are perceived, our forces are perceived to be fighting American war, and so there is growing extremism in Pakistan. Pakistan is far more polarized society today than it was 10 years back. And the only way is that Pakistan should become a sovereign, credible government, which then says no to aid, makes the necessary reforms, and then makes it Pakistan's war. It should not be fighting America's war. So therefore, I think this is a time for change of strategy. If Pakistan has to win this war on terror on Pakistani soil, it can only be done by a sovereign Pakistani government.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for all of that, Imran. And that's it for this week. My thanks to all of my guests, all of my very special guests. Do join me again in 7 days' time for another edition of Frost Over the World.